Thaddeus Ward is one of the top Red Sox pitching prospects in their farm system and a very eventful 2022, not only coming back from Tommy John surgery, but also helping the Portland Sea Dogs make it to their first playoff appearance in 8 years. We had the opportunity to speak with Thaddeus in this episode of the Locked On Red Sox podcast.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider, Jake Ignaszewski. I was joined, as always, by my co-host, NESN Willand. But today, we had a very special guest in Red Sox pitching prospect, Thaddeus Ward, who's currently pitching in the Arizona Fall League, getting some extra work down there. We not only spoke with him about his experience in the AFL, a little bit about how he recovered this past season from Tommy John surgery and how he's feeling now, and much, much more. Now, let's get into our conversation with Thaddeus Ward. By the way, even though we already started recording, I can cut this out. Do you like Thaddeus or Thad more?
I prefer Thaddeus, but it's not something I'm just gonna I'm not gonna correct somebody for calling me Thad.
All right, I'll say Thaddeus. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to ask before because I've seen both, but I always like to make sure I say people's name correctly.
I'm not gonna walk around and make people say the full long name of Thaddeus. That just gets the job done.
I got you. All right, we'll do the intro and then we'll get kicking. We are here with Red Sox pitching prospect Thaddeus Ward, who is currently in the Arizona Fall League. So how are we doing, Thad?
I'm doing well. I'm enjoying.
So, the last time we spoke over, Twitter text message, you said that, the heat sort of is tough at the moment. And how are you acclimating to that and, getting used to the Arizona Fall League?
Yeah, the heat's, it's definitely different. Obviously, growing up in Florida, you're used to it, but it's a lot different when it's just dry heat out here. A couple days to get really adjusted to it, but right now it's like 70 degrees, and it's hard to complain about the heat with that going on.
Can't complain. Up here, I'm recording from New Hampshire. It's like 40 or 50 degrees and rainy, so I would take 70 all day. So how are you enjoying the Arizona Fall League so far, and how have you been feeling?
I've been having a great time. Working with guys from different organizations, seeing how different organizations go about their business. It's really cool to see and to be a part of. And I'm just trying to make the most of my opportunity out here. Pitching wise, it could be better. Kind of dealing with a little bit of a oblique thing through, but we'll be back and we'll get 2 more outings in before the season's over.
How do you kind of rest the oblique and the oblique issue? It's kind of a tough injury where there's not a whole lot to be done other than just kind of not try to use it as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's not. I don't even really know how to describe it. It's basically just kind of up until I got to go to the field, and then when I'm at the field, it's there's a bunch of different breathing techniques to really try to expand that area. Other than that, there's specific things that I really need to be doing at home. So.
And really looking at sort of your strong suits of mainly your fastball and your slider is there any sort of pitches or any sort of mechanics that you're working on right now in the AFL?
A lot of what we're working on is fastball command, being in the strike zone more often, and then another one we're working on still is the really developing better. Try to make that a little bit better of an option for me. Being a starter, and I want to stay in that role, I need to develop some sort of change up, something to kind of slow guys, kind of something that we've been working on for a while, and it's still a work in progress, but I feel good about where both.
What is the process in trying to kind of develop a new pitch or even a newer grip on a pitch you already throw? Like, what is that kind of whole process like?
It really is just trial and error. It's figuring out what really feels good to you. A particular grip or a particular feel won't work with one guy the same way it does with another. Just figuring out what feels good to you, and then trying to maximize. I mean, it's especially with a pitch like a changeup where it's just a purely. It's really important to really kind of figure out what feels good to you.
Makes sense, and it was really interesting, looking through, not only your path to the Red Sox, but what you did before joining the Red Sox, and sort of you serving as the bat boy in Fort Myers for the spring training Red Sox, and sort of what was your initial reaction when you were first drafted by Boston in the 5th round in 2018?
I mean, it was a hard feeling to really describe. It's the morning of the draft. My dad, because I'm at my parents' house, my dad wakes up, puts on a bunch of Red Sox. And I had to tell him to go change in case, if I get drafted by another team, I don't want a video of my dad in the video. And so when I get the call and I found out it was the Red Sox, who is it? And I didn't say anything, but I just smiled. And my dad just started running back his Red Sox gear and came running back out. It was a really exciting moment. Not family, very fortunate to be able to be at home more often than I've ever been, and so it was an incredible day.
As playing for kind of a hometown team, does that kind of make any preparations easier, knowing that you are close to home? You like you said, you get to go home more often than if you were playing for like the Dodgers or someone on the West Coast.
Oh, it's a lot easier. It's, I'm going to the same place I'm going back home to Fort Myers, and I don't have to pay for a place to go work out. I don't have housing. I'll just stay with my parents. So, I mean, a lot of it's much, much simpler and more convenient. And I get to just be home with my family. I get to see my nephews and nieces grow up a little bit more. It's kind of important to me, and I'm very fortunate for that.
Speaking about your dad, I also read that, he would always tell you and your siblings as well, never half-ass 2 things, pick one at a time and give it your everything. And how do you really try and implement that into your game?
So I'll use an example for it. So just throughout the season this year has been throwing more strikes and just being in the strike zone. And it was also, okay, let's get the changeup better. It was kind of like I had to pick one to really, really focus on and have the other one kind of be there as a second. Okay, we'll throw this in here. So for me, what was most important was throwing more strikes. So I put large amount of focus into that one thing. And I still had to, we'll still keep throwing it to feel good about it, but there'll be a time and place where I say, okay, I'm good on that changeup. So, I mean, that's kind of an example of, having worked on and figuring out which one is more important and really putting more versus kind of being 50-50 on both options.
We hope that you are enjoying our conversation with Red Sox pitching prospect Thaddeus Ward, but I just want to take a second to talk to you about Rhone. So I don't know about you, but with dress shirts, it's always tough for me to not only find one that fits, that isn't too tight, or that is comfortable. Most of the time when I'm wearing dress shirts, I feel like I'm all clogged up. It's not comfortable. It's not breathable, but luckily, with Rhone, they have radically reinvented and stepped up to the challenge to figure out the best dress shirt for you to not only look good, but feel good with their commuter shirt. It's the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man. And here's exactly why. It's mobility. And with their Rhone comfortable 4-way stretch fabric, it provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy whatever life throws your way, whether you're commuting to work or you're going to play 18 holes of golf. It also looks good as well. So it's time to feel confident with a wrinkle-free shirt without the hassle. And with Rhone's wrinkle-free technology, wrinkles disappear upon your eyes as you stretch and wear the shirt. Is just that easy. Also, it is odor-free tech, and with their Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Rhone is 100% machine washable, so you can dish the dry cleaner all together. So get the Rhone commuter shirt today at rhone.com/lockedon. You can use the promo code LOCKEDON to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head over to rhon.com/lockedon and use the promo code LOCKEDON. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Now, let's get back to our conversation with Thaddeus Ward. That makes sense. And, throughout this season, you've also been, recovering from Tommy John surgery, or you recovered last year, and now you're sort of getting back into the swing of things. And so how tough was that process, really, figuring out your getting back to your strengths and feeling comfortable on the mound?
It was tough. A lot of the difficulty coming back from injury and doing the rehab process is actually the mental side of it. It's very easy and kind of go to dark places mentally. So that was the most challenging part. Support system back home, I have a really good support system at the complex of guys rehabbing. Obviously, I got to thank my wife, and that was the toughest hurdle to get over. Cool stuff. It was more of once it started to feel good, I knew I was in a good spot. And so once we got that initial part of, okay, my was like my cutter's feeling back to where it was. Once I started to feel that way, it was you with the process of, okay, just keep throwing it.
Makes sense. And I find the mental side of the game so fascinating. I only played up until the end of high school, and I read the book Mental Game of Baseball, and just learning about obviously how the game 90% of the game is mental and 10% is physical. And I'm curious, through that process, did you have anybody that you were able to ask questions to, or was sort of like a mentor for you through that Tommy John process?
So actually, I had a couple people that were very, very important in that process. One of whom is one of our mental skills, Rhone. He mainly worked at the complex and over in the DR time, and he was awesome. I mean, if none you can talk to about these things, because that's what he's there for, and he went above and beyond description in that aspect. And in terms of players, I had Bell, I had around me Brian Mata, had around me rehab with Sale quite a bit. There's a larger list of guys that were with me, and we were all kind of going through the process and all trying to get back to playing the game again. So it kind of helped it all kind of band together and really helped each other through it. So that was important during my rehab process.
And you brought up Brian Mata as one of those guys who's sort of like a mentor, and you just popped up a memory in my brain that you guys sort of went through that process together. And so, you two being in Portland to start off the season this past year, was there any times at all where, maybe you were having trouble, getting back, and maybe he was too, and you guys were able to go back and forth and sort of help each other?
With myself and Mata, like him and I are very, very, very good friends, but a lot of it came through kind of him and I kind of butted heads early on in the rehab process with personalities. So initially we kind of butted heads, and obviously teammates are going to do that. And I think having that happen early, and then the progress with each other throughout the rehab. You're really trying to push each other to be better. It really helped both of us get back to where we really wanted to be.
Makes sense. And especially, over the last 2 years, COVID happened, the alternate site, obviously, as we just spoke about, the Tommy John. What have been some of the biggest lessons for you, whether it's within the game, personally? You brought up the mental aspect, so I bet you learned a lot of lessons through that. But especially, reflecting back, what are some of those lessons that come to mind?
Important lessons I really learned is that baseball is not your identity. You're not a baseball. That's your job.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something we love to do, and that's a big part of who we are. And I think in my younger years, baseball just consumed me, and that's who I was. And having it to really put things into perspective of, I need a life outside of the game. I need to have people outside of just the baseball field. I think that's one of the most important lessons I learned 2.5 years.
Right. And it can be with baseball, career, your career is not your identity. I've heard so many athletes echo the same exact sentiment.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's funny, we talk a lot about work-life balance, and you obviously need that too, especially as an athlete when, you're playing a lot of games every year, and then now you're in the Arizona Fall League. So how do you kind of balance the whole work-life thing?
I try to make it really important that, when I'm home with my wife, and I'm not worried about what's going on in the field, what I have to do tomorrow, what I have to do next. I'm home from work. During off days, we don't do anything baseball, like golf together. This last week we drove out to Sedona, just area. Taking time with just people outside of baseball. That just be the focus of whenever I'm not at the field.
And so, when you're not on the field, like, what are your go-to things to do? Do you have outside hobbies? Like, I know most guys play golf. Christian Costas, he bowls, which other than Mookie Betts, that's the only person I've heard say that. So, what are some of your hobbies?
I'm a big time golfer. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm not. But that's my biggest hobby is going and playing golf. And then during the off season, past couple off seasons, I've coached basketball and baseball at my high school, because that's obviously basketball was a big part of my life growing up too, and I still love it. So I'll go back there. And playing video games, really pretty simple stuff.
How tough is it to play against Cole Cottom and Nico Cavadas? I know Cottom's brother plays pro now, and especially with Cavadas. He's a big human, so I bet he can probably hit it pretty far.
Had a chance to play golf with Nico.
Oh, okay.
When he got to point of the year, and guys were kind of teetering off the golf a little bit, and then by the time his close, I had the start of the oblique issue, so we haven't had a chance to get out there yet. We will. But playing against Cole, Cole and I have been playing against each other for years. We have a series we play against each other. Last year we did the loser tickets.
Oh my god!
A 5-game or 5-match series or something. Playing against Cole is very tough. So it's very difficult.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. We hope that you are enjoying our conversation with Thaddeus Ward, but we want to thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen and go and check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and the insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today. It's available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's get back to our conversation with Thaddeus Ward.
We have
Especially when he has that mustache.
Yeah, he hits the way. long way.
We have a question here from a listener that said if there was anything you were able to pick up from Michael Wacha and Brian Bayo when they were making their rehab starts in Portland.
So I'd say mainly with Wacha, being an older guy, being a veteran, how he went about his business. And it wasn't like he was impersonal, but he got to the field, went in, he got his work done. And then after his job done while he was there, then he would relax for a little while and then start to get ready for the game. And it was a thing, and kind of cool to watch another person's kind of process and how they prepare themselves. And then with Bayo, it's a little bit different with Bayo because I played with Bayo for a long time, but I played with Bayo before. So I'd kind of already seen a lot of what he can do and how good he was to the show. And, having him come back and watching how successful he is and where he kind of started, it was really fun to watch him.
Yeah, I bet. And you also have like guys like Trevor Story as well go down there, and especially being able to have some of those major league guys. You brought up sort of like the preparation and the way they go about that sort of stuff, but being able to see sort of how they play the game, the mental side. Is there anything that you were able to pick up on that aspect?
One thing I noticed, and I think it's something that's kind of important for a lot of players that really take into account all the time, is that like baseball is really, really hard, and you have to be able to give yourself for mistakes. So you have to be able to, give yourself a little bit of grace when you're done. So a hitter goes up and strikes out in that bat. Like obviously you're going to be upset, but like kind of forgive yourself and move on. The same way as a pitcher, I throw a bad pitch or I don't execute. I got to find a way to forgive myself for that mistake and move on. And these guys to do it so quickly, and it wasn't like you could legitimately see like they were upset about it happening, and then it was over and done with by the time they went back out into the ballpark. And I think that's something that's really cool to see. Obviously, it's very hard to achieve, and seeing it done at the level that they do it is pretty fun to watch, but it's good to see. Right.
And sticking with the mental aspect real quick, I'm always curious hearing about how guys mentally prepare or mentally debrief, especially for pitchers, 5 days in between. And I noticed I went and saw you pitch in Portland, tried my best not to make eye contact with you when you were preparing. You were doing the little medicine ball stuff. And but like, is there anything that you do prior to your start mentally to help you get in the zone and get mentally ready?
Kind of done is kind of like my music selection. Everybody has their own too before the games. Everybody has the music they like to listen to. For me, it was like warm up and prepare myself. It was very upbeat, very fast, get my heart rate going. Actually leave the locker room to go start stretching. I listened to something very, very slow. Something calm me down mentally. Because the heart rate was already going, and now it's just trying to be as quiet in my head as I possibly could be. So that's kind of something. I learned that from my brother, who used to do the same thing. So that kind of different thing they do. I guess that's my thing.
Nice.
That's really interesting that you have, music that kind of gets you pumped up, and then music that kind of, brings you back, I guess you could say, and just kind of, like you said, kind of slows that heart rate, calms you down. Do you have any like go-to songs or artists that you're just like, today's the day I'm going to listen to this person?
So that kind of forth. That one really depends on my mood for the day. There'll be days where I feel like just listen to heavy metal going absolutely nuts in my head. And then there are days I want to listen to rap or EDM. So whatever I'm really feeling that day.
So it's basically like when I go to the gym.
Necessarily. Yeah. I just I'll just put my phone on shuffle and just see what comes up. That's basically what happens.
That's usually the best way to go about it. But, really reflecting on, this past season, especially with Portland, them making the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. We've talked to Katie Krall on this podcast before, and, speaking with her throughout the year, even when I went and saw you pitch in Portland, she's like hoping you can bring us some good luck. But good luck definitely came to you guys being able to make the playoffs. And so what was sort of that journey like throughout the season?
So I wasn't able to kind of see what it was like, obviously. But I guess the team did not have a very good first half at all of the standings. And by the time I got, the culture of the team was just incredible. There weren't any guys that were like mechanics and stuff like that. None of that was really going on. Everybody was together. Everybody having that good culture is what you really need for a winning team. And we had it. And it was obvious. It was pretty apparent on the field. So I think a lot of just our success from that second half and going into the postseason, a lot of that was bad.
Is there anything in particular going into, obviously with the Arizona Fall League and then going into the winter and spring training, is there anything you have like one main goal or one major focus going into the 2023 season?
I'd say one of my main focuses is, making correctly, eating the right way, proper diet, proper nutrition. During the season, the goal to really make sure you hammer down on that. And so it's going to be making sure I'm 100%. Sorry, we had a waitress come by. 100% fully into eating properly.
Makes sense. And, especially, if you're still in Portland, especially if you're with Christian Koss, maybe get some of his special cereal. He says that usually helps him. It's the big reason why he has success on a given day. But last thing for you, Thaddeus, outside of baseball, anything that you're excited about after the Arizona Fall League finishes?
I'm excited to go home and see my family, play a lot of golf when I get back home, and that's pretty much it. Just kind of hang out and
Awesome. Love it. We'll greatly appreciate you taking the time today to not only talk a little bit about your journey, but as well as, some of the things that you learned throughout the season. And, I know a lot of Sox fans are really excited to see you continue to move up the ranks.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys having me on.
We hope that you did enjoy our conversation with Red Sox pitching prospect Thaddeus Ward, but we greatly appreciate everybody tuning in to all these episodes throughout October. It's been a lot of fun, not only reflecting on the 2022 Red Sox season, but also getting to learn more about the journeys of guys like Thaddeus Ward, as well as some other Red Sox reporters and influencers. And we're going to continue bringing on the guests in the great Red Sox content. But if you ever want us to talk about anything in particular or have on any guests that you have in mind, go over and tweet us over on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. You can also follow myself over there. It's at Jake Iggy, and also Lauren. It's three laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But as always, we greatly appreciate everybody making Locked On Red Sox their first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insight only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today. It's available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to also check out all the other great Locked On podcasts. They not only cover the NFL, the NBA, and college sports as well. Locked On Podcast Network does an amazing job of bringing you the information that you want to hear about your favorite teams. Now, we greatly appreciate all the support as always, and we hope that everybody has a great rest of their day. And we'll end it how we always end it. Let's go Sox. Peace.